All right.
The broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here is Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. And let me say Hotep Havaragani to my Africana Studies people and contemporaries and seekers after the truth all. And let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never a good night and never ever a goodbye, because I've always found goodbyes traumatizing. I said I found goodbyes traumatizing. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles. And how are you doing? And this offering that you are viewing at this time, this presentation, is a social justice offering, and it is titled It's Time. Of course, justice and time are very broad subjects, as the English teachers taught us when I was in school a long time ago. And but it's social justice because we don't serve God, we cannot serve God in a vacuum or in a bubble, all right? And the classic definition of time says it is the mental presupposition of the duration of an object. I always thought that was a very witty definition, but of course we know time is far more than that declension or nomenclature. Time can be a book. Time can be a song, and we have to we gauge our lives by the events through which we have passed. Sometimes a song will make you speed up because I got to accomplish what I meant to have accomplished by this time in my age of life. You know how it is. And so it is with us in this world. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, and the name of our church again is the New Life Institutional Baptist Church, and we are being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church. Because my good friend is the Reverend Dr. Della F. Holiness. You know, they always say when the Baptists and the Methodists, and the Charismatics get together, there's always going to be a shouting in the camp. When the Baptists and the Methodists get together, we have a good time too, come to think about it. All right. We are in the midst of a storm, political storm. You have an imposter claiming that he is still president, and we are coming up on another presidential election. We need to be getting ready for it, and the conditions and the situations in our world are very uncertain. Looks like it almost was a coup in Russia, and we never know how it's going to come out in Ukraine. And so we need to be on our knees in prayer to God that he would take control and that he would protect us from the things that are coming upon the earth. Yes, we're in the days where men's hearts are failing them for looking at the signs above and looking at the things on the earth. It's very frightening time to a lot of people. But if you're a person of faith, then you know that these times were spoken of in Scripture, and ever since I've been born, we've been living in the last days, and so we're still in the last days, and these are the beginnings of sorrow. And I was thankful that when they had the arrest or the arraignment of His Majesty Donald Trump down there in Miami last week, that his supporters didn't create a stir. And because I was half expecting them to show up with their guns at the ready. You know, Florida is one of those states where you can have an open carry. And so I'm thanking God that he guided us past the 8 ball on that one. But the crisis is not over, not by a long shot. This is as we said, a social justice broadcast, and we basically deal with the environment, which is in a terrible shape, and we deal with the economics, which sums it all up, because without money in this capitalistic system, you hardly can't move out from where you are, but yet you got to move because somebody wants that space. So we are environmentally challenged. As I said on last week, 3M had made a $10 billion settlement, not admitting any wrong, but yet making the settlement to make the people public go away. But they have polluted the water systems in over 43 cities, and I imagine the other ones just haven't found out how bad it is, and so that affects your drinking water. You got to drink water. You bathe in water. You cook with water. When I was in school, they told me water was the universal solvent. And man has just polluted the waters and the streams and the brooks and the rivers, and he's now polluting the ocean. They got islands of plastic out in the middle of the ocean, and it's all man-made stuff, plastic. And you know that plastic is not biodegradable. It does not deteriorate. It stays there. And just like 3M talking about the forever products that they develop, fireman's foam and all those type of things, those things never lose their potency. And so that's why they're called forever products. My Lord, what a horrid job we have done of being stewards of this earth. And it's coming back upon us in spades from time to time. The horrors of our environment are just beginning to be realized. Not just Flint, Michigan, but Jackson, Mississippi, you know, where they had these terrible drinking water systems. And it's going to spread all across this nation, just mark my words. And because of the fact that men are not caring for the earth. They're not caring for the brooks and the streams and the rivers and the lakes. And you can't, all of this level of high pollution cannot continue to go on unabated. All right. And again, on the environment, these train derailments. You don't know what these trains carry until they derail. Then all you find out, they got all kind of asphalt on this latest train derailment. And you never can trust the railroad because they're not your friend, never have been our friend. But they transport hazardous materials in those boxcars, in those tanks. And when they overturn, it creates a hazard in whatever neighborhood and whatever region or geographical location the train may happen to derail. And so we need to be about our Father's business and make these companies toe the line. The Supreme Court is trying to make it easier for the corporation to pollute the waterways and the byways and the streams and the bayous and the brooks and the lakes with the rulings that they are passing down. They don't allow the EPA to regulate. Now the Supreme Court is regulating. And they're making a horrible job because they cater to the corporate class. As I said on last week, 6 of those justices are members of the Federalist Society. And the Federalist Society picks the most conservative justices to present to the President of the United States for him to make these lifetime appointments of these judges that you didn't elect, but once they're in place, you can't get rid of them. Got a lifetime appointment until they decide to come off the bench. And that is what is hurting the country, is their rulings, because they have no strictures, they have no code of ethics, they know no bounds, and everything is open to them. They're getting ready to rule, pass a decision, make a judgment on affirmative action. And not that affirmative action ever did me any good, but it was good for those that were trying to go to college and trying to get certain types of employment. It was good to have affirmative action in place. But now, the governor of California says that if they overturn affirmative action, then many of the blacks will no longer be able to qualify to go to college. Mind you, they don't talk about affirmative action when they talk about these legacy students, because your father went to Harvard, you can go to Harvard, or because your mother went to Yale, you can go to Yale. All that. They don't talk about those types of legacy applications of affirmative action. Those are off limits. They fail to see that. But mostly when it comes to anything that would benefit or give the poor a leg up in this settler colonial system, the Supreme Court sides always with the corporation. And they're going to pass a ruling, a decision is being awaited on student loans. And of course, President Biden and the GOP really have thrown the student loan forgiveness part of the budget under the bus. There will be no student loan forgiveness, and that is a shame, because a lot of people, those student loans, they will be paying on them to their dying hour. Those student loans, in other words, will follow them into the grave. And that's such a shame that you have to spend so much money and just to get a degree in this country, and yet you may not be able to get a job in the field for which you studied in school. All right, I want to come to the issue of gerrymandering or redistricting. Karl Rove said, if you control redistricting, you control the Congress. That's Karl Rove. You know, he was the maven of the political establishment, especially the Republicans. And here's another statement that says, we drew congressional maps for partisan advantage. That's Mr. Ralph Heiss and Mr. David Lewis. They don't make no bones about it. They don't try to hide what they're doing. Whoever's in the majority in whatever legislature and in the Congress, they redraw every 10 years. They take their own pencils and their computers and their calculators, and they redraw the districts so that it favors their party or it favors their contemporaries in the legislature. And the Democrats do it and the Republicans do it. But the Republicans have done it better than the Democrats. All right. Associate Justice Elena Kagan, in one of her dissents, said that the court substitutes its own ideas about policy making for Congresses. The court will not allow the Clean Water Act to work as Congress instructed. The court, rather than Congress, will decide how much regulation is too much. And that's Associate Justice Elena Kagan. Now, I'm going into this redistricting, like I said, this gerrymandering, because there's the case coming up in North Carolina. There's a case in Alabama that was before the Supreme Court. It may still be decided by the Supreme Court. And you know, with these conservative justices, just about what kind of a decision they are going to make. They're going to make a decision that favors those that draw the redistricting maps, who tend to be at this time Republican. And I would draw your attention to the case, the Supreme Court case in 2013, Shelby County v. Holder, the Holder being Eric Holder, who was the Attorney General of the United States at that time. And Holder, I don't think, was adequately prepared for what the lawyers for Shelby County presented. And of course, with the newly minted Chief Justice John Roberts, they overturned the effective portions of the Voting Rights Act that said that the states of Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Virginia, and 3 more states would have to get a pre-clearance before they could redraw any maps or redraw any districts that affected the ability of the people to vote. Remember what Karl Rove said: if you control redistricting, you control the Congress. All right. And so since Shelby v. Holder and then Citizens United that came along later, these are Supreme Court cases that made it to the Supreme Court and were decided, and the effects of these cases are being felt by us at this very hour. The case of Citizens United made it possible for billionaires and trillionaires and millionaires to throw money at politicians, candidates. And so when a billionaire throws money at you, what is he planning to do? He ain't throwing at you money. He ain't throwing money at you out the goodness of his heart. You got to do something in return. That is why the Bible talks about gift given in secret, and it blinds the eye of those who are in the seat of judgment or decision making, because you're saying, hey, Martin gave me $1 million. I'm going to look out for that boy. And so it is in the Congress, and it is that way in the Supreme Court. You know, Samuel Alito is now on the hot seat for failing to disclose the lavish gifts that the people who run the Federalist Society have lavished him with. They gave him a lavish trip to somewhere up in Alaska, which we talked about last week. If he'd had to pay for it, it would cost him $100,000 one way, and that means it would cost him $100,000 coming back. But now that was a gift from Mr. Robert Leo, who is a member of was a vice chairman of the Federalist Society, and a Mr. Paul Singer, whose name I mangled last week, but his name is Paul Singer. He is a billionaire hedge fund manager, and if you got a hedge fund, those of you that know about the stock market, you always got to be doing some kind of legal proceeding to make people do right, or to perpetrate the schemes and schisms and scams, yes, scams, that these hedge funds perpetrate on the general public every day. the Sackler family. I mentioned them last week, but they've been in the news. Why? Because they produce that opioid that is so detrimental to the general public. It causes a lot of deaths and a lot of side effects, and they were being sued, but they have managed to do what 3M did without admitting any wrongdoing. They have been able to, I think, put out $100 billion to settle all of those claims that their product injured or debilitated people who were taking their products. So you can see that the rich are getting a pass to the Supreme Court, are getting a pass to the halls of justice. And so now when you come in after you pay your fee, the other person have already paid more than you, and even if you get to arbitration, or if you get to get your case to the trial court, a lot of times that jury sitting up there has already been bought off. Dr. Jeremiah Wright says the notions of a level playing field lack any notion of the structural and systemic ways that the race is not fair. This is Dr. Jeremiah Wright talking. He says there are structural and systemic disadvantages. Equality works on the naive assumption that fairness means treating everybody the same. Equity is based on justice. Equity starts from the premise that for the sake of justice, there must always be a commitment to structural and systemic change. But our society, still quoting Dr. Jeremiah Wright, is built like a game of musical chairs. There are always more people than there are chairs, and no one knows when the music is going to stop, and no one is allowed to back up once they have passed a chair. And if the music stops and you can't, and everybody sits down and you can't sit down, then what you do? You have lost. And the game of musical chairs is most often played by the healthiest of people, who are most agile, who can hear well, and who can get to their seats quickly. Because if you have any type of a handicap or impediment, you're not going to be able to move on musical chairs, because by the time you get up, well, the music doesn't stop. Like the man at the pool. But there's the pool. He said, I'm way back here. I'm handicapped, and I'm disabled, and I'm on my bed of affliction. And when the angel troubled the water, well, while I'm trying to get up, somebody else is stepping in the water, getting the blessing. That type of thing. And so it is in our society. I hate to tell it to you like that, but that's how it is. Quoting Dr. Jeremiah Wright again, there are always more people than there are chairs, and no one knows when the music is going to stop, and no one is allowed to go back once they have passed a chair. This is Dr. Jeremiah Wright who was talking. He says, when it comes to the social status of blacks as opposed to white people, the game is structured to make the white people always win. And you can take that to the bank and put it in there. That's solid. And these Wells Fargo or Citibank or Chase or whatever bank you want to put that in, you're playing their game. And you think you're going to win, but no, you're not going to win. They may bring you along, but they're not going to let you win. All right, 5 minutes, y'all. The kicker for this is, according to the late Supreme Court Justice William Rehnquist and the late Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, they claim that there is no absolute right of suffrage in the Constitution. This was brought out in 2000 with the case of Bush v. Gore, where they wanted the people to stop the counting. If you remember, that was Roger Stone was very active then. He's an old man now, thank God. But at that time, he was virile and muscular and healthy and athletic, and he and a bunch of his compadres, the same compadres that pulled off the January 6, 2021 attempt to overthrow the democracy, he was the one who was very active in stopping the count down there in Florida. You might remember Sister Miss Catherine Harris was Secretary of State, and she was very pro-Republican, very pro-George Bush, and when the Supreme Court stepped in to stop the counting, which they said they was never going to do that anymore, but the precedent has been set, and Judge Kavanaugh already has referred to Bush v. Gore as the basis for one of his decisions that he have made since he has gotten on the court. All right. Nothing is more important than free and fair election. With respect but deep sadness, I dissent. This is Justice Eleanor Kagan, who was dissenting from the majority in the case of Rucho versus Common Cause. Remember, it's always, I don't know how to say this, I don't want to say this wrong. We know we have to work in the justice system, but it's good to know not to be naive, that things may not go your way. Just because you're telling the truth doesn't mean you're going to win in this justice system, because it's not configured for truth. It's only configured that the prevailing people will continue to prevail. And the white folks been prevailing, and they're going to still prevail, because it's their system, it's their game, it's drawn up for them. As I close, remember, you got to watch these Supreme Court cases. 2018 case, Janus versus the American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees, where this Janus sued the union because he didn't want to pay dues, and the Supreme Court ruled in his favor. There's no more mandatory dues for the union being taken from everybody's check. That's over, and that's a Roberts Court ruling. And this year, the case of Glacier Northwest versus the Teamsters Union. The Teamsters lost that case. The Teamsters had gone, the cement truck drivers had gone out on strike, and when the company that they were striking against, Glacier, got their case up to the Supreme Court ruled in Glacier's favor, which means that the cement that was in the truck that got hard because the workers was on strike, the workers had to eat that cement. And that is the Supreme Court that you have to deal with at this present hour. All right. So remember, if you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, I think there's still some union strikes going on right now. The hotel workers are going out on strike, try to get $25 an hour, and the hotels don't want to give it to them. I think Hyatt Regency is the only one so far that has boosted the workers' pay $4 at one time. But again, if you're working on a job and they don't want to tell you, don't want to pay you, take my advice and don't work for them. God bless you. Thank you, Doc. We out of here.